What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Season 2. This is Season 2 of the New York Liberty franchise mode in NBA 2K25. I'm calling it Defending the Torch. Now, there will be timestamps in the description box in case you want to jump ahead to different sections and see what we got going on. But before I get into all of that, I do have to promote something very close to me, and that's my wife's art page. It's called Krave Da Art. Check her out on Instagram. She's a self-taught pencil artist. Here's an example of some of her work. So what you see on your screen is a little thing I threw together for Season 1 of this franchise mode. You see the Brooklyn Bridge in the background, the classic New York Liberty logo front and center, and the Empire Rising subheading at the top. Basically, I was trying to take the New York Liberty to the championship in NBA 2K25, the first ever title. But as I was as I got the NBA 2K25 game, the real life New York Liberty were finishing up their regular season and preparing for a playoff run that culminated with the championship. So the New York Liberty were able, in real life, to win the championship. They were one of the founding franchises in the league, had gone to the finals multiple times, broke our hearts multiple times. They were able to knock off the Lynx in one of the most exciting playoff series, men's or women's, that I've ever seen in my life. And so once the Liberty were able to clinch that, I had to try to go ahead and follow it up. I couldn't let the virtual New York Liberty fans down. Just like in real life, I was able to close out the Lynx. Although this game wasn't as close and as competitive as that Game 5 was from last year in real life, I was able to take home the championship. It was a tough series overall, though. Nafisa Kalia, unstoppable, probably the most unstoppable player that I faced all season long in the game. I think she might have averaged like more than 30, 40 points against me if you count regular season matchups. I just could not stop her. I didn't have an answer for her. But I was able to get strong performances from Sabrina Ionescu in game number 2, dropped like 50 with her. And then in game 4 and 5, the games that I needed to end off the series, I got really good performances out of Jonquel Jones. And that really put me over the top. Breanna Stewart, I was able to play pretty well with her in the series, but she wasn't the deciding factor the way that she was in some of these games late in the stretch. Because I was desperate. I was I cannot lose this series, especially since the real life Liberty won. Had to try to throw the ball inside to my star, Jonquel Jones, try to work the insides. And I did some of that with Stewie too, but I think the mismatch advantage came from Jonquel and whoever she was matching up against. So I tried to do that, hit the threes with her as well. She's an ultimate weapon in these 2K games. So as you can see, the game selected Sabrina Ionescu as the WNBA Finals MVP, but I took a little executive privilege and decided to override that and pick Jonquel Jones, not just because Jonquel Jones is the real life MVP from the finals last year, but because I feel like in them last 2 games, Jonquel was more clutch for me, more of an MVP for the series than Sabrina. Although Sabrina really kept us out of an 0-2 deficit, so she was important too. And with that 50-point game, her scoring averages throughout the series was just something insane. But I had to make that executive decision, give it to Jonquel. I feel like Jonquel was more deserving, taking everything into account. So now we officially in the off season. I'm calling the off season start of Season 2, and with Season 2, Liberty are now the defending WNBA champions, so I'm calling Season 2 Defending the Torch. And a little play on the Statue of Liberty and all that. So Season 2, Defending the Torch. We'll run through a little bit of this off-season stuff. First on the agenda, we got the retirement of the ageless wonder, Diana Taurasi. In real life, she retired, and the game kind of just mimicked the same thing due to, I guess, her actual age, which ain't old, man. 42 ain't old. I'm not just saying that because me and Taurasi the same age, but salute to Diana Taurasi, the keeper of the baggy shorts, a holdover from the era that I can relate to, being a contemporary, at least in terms of age, of Diana Taurasi, but Hall of Fame bound for certain in real life. Came into this league after winning multiple national championships at UConn, of course, part of one of the great UConn Husky runs in history. Hit the league and eventually became a multiple-time WNBA champion and a league MVP. Forgot what year that was, but 3 WNBA championships, multiple gold medals, because when she ain't busting ass in the WNBA, she's busting ass in international competition. Finished her career as the all-time leading scorer. I think she hit like over 10,000 points in the career. It's gonna be a hard record to break, but we got some young guns out there trying to do it. But she ends her career as one of the best, one of the most recognizable women's basketball players over the past 20 years, and very happy for her, or thankful for her contributions to the game. I do have to mention that DT gave us the business this season, even though we kind of won some of these games, but she went for 28, 42, and then 39 in the 3 matchups against us, so I had to mention that. So now we're up to the league meeting section here, where I can change some of the league rules. The main thing I'm going to try to do is make the playoff format mirror what's going to happen in real life. I cannot add games to the actual schedule. The real life WNBA is going to a 44 games season, up from 40. This game is pretty much locked at 40 games. I think you could reduce it when you first make the your franchise, but you can't really add games. So I'm stuck at 40. But with the playoffs, I'm going to be able to make the WNBA Finals a best of 7 series, just like it will be in real life. And I know in real life they've changed the playoff format to a 1-1-1 in the first round, but it's already like that in the video game, so no changes are needed in that regard. I really wish I could add games because I am adding the Valkyries to the game for this coming season, and I plan on adding the Portland team and the Toronto team if I ride out this dynasty or this franchise another season. So I wish I could add games, but I don't think I can. Alright, so now looking at the league alignment, I didn't really do anything except for add an expansion team. You see the Golden State Valkyries. The logo was missing. I ended up correcting it later. I don't know what the issue was. I did upload the logo to the 2K website or whatever. It was there and then it disappeared, so I had to redo it again, and now we're back to normal. With the Valkyries, I designed some jerseys for them. You got the home jersey, the away jersey, and the alternate jersey. I'm not an expert at this kind of thing, but I think these are decent looking, and they'll get me through this season of the franchise. Now with this draft lottery, I'm going to make the moves anyway, as I did last season, trying to make the rosters accurate. But I did want to see if this draft lottery would play out the same way it did in real life, with the Wings winning the #1 pick, followed by the Sparks, the Sky, and the Mystics. Valkyries will automatically slide at number 5. There's no way to do that in this game, but I kind of wanted to see how the video game would shake out the lottery. So now we're moving on to the free agency. As you can see on your screen, you got the official WNBA website list of all the offseason transactions from free agency and whatever. I did not record the in-game footage of me making or recreating these moves, but just know that the roster is going to be accurate as possible. The rest of the league loading up to try to take out my New York Liberty from the top of its perch. There are a lot of foreign-born players that are in camps. That if they make the rosters, I'm going to make sure that they're in the game. If not, they'll just be in the free agency pile. But I didn't record any of the in-game footage of me trying to recreate these free agency moves. All right, so in real life, a bunch of head coaches got the boot, and I try my best to recreate these moves. I don't have any footage of it, but I try my best to recreate the moves that you see on the screen. Some of them were easy to do because the replacement coach was already in the game. Like in the case of Tyler Marsh, he was an assistant with the Vegas Aces, so simple fix. You move him off the Aces, you put him as the head coach of the Sky, and you're done. But in the case of Christy Sides and the Fever, she got fired. She was replaced by the Connecticut Suns former head coach Stephanie White. You make that move is easy. Now, some of the other moves are kind of hard or impossible because you don't have the ability to create coaches from scratch, and the coach in real life came from like college or a foreign league, so I had to kind of make do with what I could, find a reasonable replacement just to make those moves. But yeah, here's the list of the coaching moves that happened in the offseason. All right, so you hear those chimes, you know it's draft time, and I promise you I did not intend for that to rhyme. I am not a lyricist. But with that said, we are at the draft time, and I'm not going to be using any of the WNBA draft footage from the video game because the presentation kind of sucks. And that's the one area where I would say Madden kind of has 2K beat, at least for this year, because they put a little bit of effort and they got on base, they bunted and got on base. Meanwhile, 2K is kind of still in the batter's box, swinging away. But yeah, 2K, you gotta step up the presentation for the draft, man, especially for the hardcore franchise mode players. They like the immersion of the games and all that. So throw us a little bit of something, throw us a little bit of presentation into the draft. So with this segment, you're watching it either as part of my season 2 preview episode of my WNBA New York Liberty franchise mode in NBA 2K25, or you're watching it as a separate upload, because I'm gonna carve this section out and upload it separately. Now, there's a brief backstory to why I'm doing that. A few weeks ago, I uploaded a 2025 draft class file to my channel. And that draft class file was the file that I used to do this draft for my season 2. But when I was looking back through it, I realized that I had some errors, some mistakes, some areas where I should have refined that file. And that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a little bit of a revision. It's like another attempt at that draft class file. Now, keep in mind, I still use that old draft class file to actually, do the draft. But after doing my revisions, I turned all the revised players into player DNAs and just updated them in my franchise mode file, because I wanted to have the updated ones. But basically, this is the revision that I made after going through that video and looking at some of the players and seeing where I could have maybe changed some things, maybe a rating, maybe the physical appearances, especially the physical appearance of like Cheyenne Sellers. I think I did a terrible job on that one. It's hard. There's no goggles, so you don't have some of the options that would make the players even more realistic. And so I went through that file, saw some errors, took out some players that shouldn't be there because they opted to come back to school. They had like a medical red shirt or some kind of other situation that gave them extra eligibility that they took advantage of. And I added some players that I overlooked when making this draft class file, like Madison Hayes, player who played at NC State with Isaiah James and Sanaya Rivers. She made it to a training camp, I think, with the Connecticut Sun, but I didn't have her in the draft class file. She didn't make the team, but she made the camp, so I decided, let me just go ahead and add her to the file. There's another player that I can't remember off the top of my head that wasn't in the file, so I ended up taking out a player that shouldn't have been in the file in the first place and just added them in there. And then I tried to refine some of the appearances, like Maddie Westbell, Cheyenne Sellers, can't think of who else, but basically some of the appearance stuff where I could, I tried to tweak that, and this is the end result of it. So again, if you're watching this segment, you're probably watching it either as the separate upload to this channel with the draft class file. So if you saw that one, this is the update to that, or you're watching as part of the preview to my season 2 of the New York Liberty franchise mode in NBA 2K25. And if you're watching it as a separate video, just go ahead and check out the playlist on my channel for season 1. Quite a few games, some entertaining stuff, some last minute buzzer beaters. It culminated with the New York Liberty winning the championship in my franchise mode. And now in season 2, trying to defend the torch and try to run it back, see if I could bring another championship back to the Liberty and back to this basketball championship star of the city. Right, so now as this video continues to play, I do want to ask a couple of questions though. Like, who do you like as far as the 2025 rookie class? Like, who do you see as the rookie of the year type? Who do you think is going to be the instant impact player? Who do you feel might be a bust? Who do you feel might be the type of player that maybe right now we're not going to see a lot from them, but maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, you're going to look back and say, yo, this player was a gamer. This player is a contributor. This player is going to really help her team win games. Now, I'm interested in seeing how Paige Bueckers does because, of course, the non-stop comparisons to Caitlin Clark is inevitable. #1 overall picks, same recruiting class in 2020, and their career is going to be linked, which is going to lead to a lot of foolishness. But I'm interested in seeing how well she plays with this particular team and how well she finds her role within the Dallas Wings with an alpha type scorer and Arike Ogunbowale. I can't pronounce that name well. That's crazy. My wife calls her Ogunbowale, because she was watching me play some of the games from last season, and Arike was lighting my ass up. Back to the topic here. I am interested in seeing how Paige is able to adjust to the league itself, the physicality and speed that she's never faced before. For my sleeper, I'm kind of want to see how Cheyenne Sellers does, because she got cut by 2 teams during the training camp training camp portion of the season, and I think it's the knee. So I want to see her get healthy, come back next year, and see if she can make another run at this thing, because she's too talented to not be in the league. All right, so we're going to close out this draft class file segment by talking a little bit about the fact that for a lot of these drafted rookies and late round picks, they will never see a meaningful minute of WNBA basketball in their lives. Some of them won't make rosters. Some of them may never play the sport again. Like they might go do something else with their lives. Some of them may pursue careers abroad. But that's due to the limited roster size and the limited number of teams in the league. Last year we had 12 teams. This year we have 13 with the addition of the Valkyries. And according to the current CBA, teams can only have a maximum of 12 allocated roster spots for players. And that kind of leaves a lot of players on the outside looking in. But fortunately, to alleviate that to some degree, we will see some expansion coming next season, which leads us into this segment. We got some WNBA expansion over the next couple of seasons, beginning with the Golden State Valkyries. They enter the league this season as the 13th team in the WNBA. Next season, we have 2 more teams. We're going to have a team from Toronto, a team name already known as the Toronto Tempo. Got the little graphics and stuff on the screen now. I've already created them in the in-game expansion mode or feature, whatever you want to call it. I already created the uniforms, and basically that'll be ready for season 3 if I decide to hold on to NBA 2K25 again for another season. But you see that I kind of let my imagination run wild and came up with some ideas for the Toronto franchise. But not only will the league expand into Toronto, but WNBA franchise is going to return to Portland for the first time in like 20 plus years, since the Portland Fire was in the WNBA. The league doesn't have a name for the team yet, or the ownership group does not have like a name or logo or anything like that for the team. So I kind of took a little creative license, and I decided to call them the Portland Rose, since that seems to be like the rumored name. And I think there's a women's soccer league, women's soccer team from the Portland area known as the Thorns. So I figured, hey, Portland is known as the Rose City. They got a soccer team known as the Thorn. And I want to say the old Portland Trailblazers arena was called the Rose Garden. I believe it was back in the Clyde Drexler days or whatever. So I decided, hey, call them the Portland Rose. I can't draw worth a damn. My wife can. But I wasn't going to ask her to draw a rose for the exercise of putting it in the video game. So I used the AI generated image of a rose, and then let my mind and my imagination work from there to create the uniforms, to create the logo, to create the home court, and it goes. Now, if for some reason the team does choose a name this year, and I'm able to get the name, the logos, and all that stuff, I'll just update this expansion team with the actual logo and name and all of that. So this is kind of a placeholder until an official name for the team comes into play. So moving on to the WNBA team rosters, you got to keep in mind that this roster set should be fairly accurate as of opening day. I'm recording this portion of the voiceover maybe 4 or 5 days after the league season opened. This is Tuesday, May 20th. The season opened on last week, Thursday, so a few days passed. Keep in mind that I don't do anything to the overall ratings for the players that were already in the game. I let whatever in-season progression take effect. I didn't change any of that stuff. The only player ratings that I had a direct effect over are the rookies that were coming in from the draft class and some of the players that I had to create from scratch that were not in the game. So otherwise, if you see a player that's rated way too high for your liking, I ain't do it. I let the league's progression do what it do, and that's why you see some players kind of elevated. Now, when you're looking at some of these rosters, also keep in mind that some teams are carrying less than the 12 maximum players because of the hard cap requirements in the WNBA. Some rosters have injured players who were injured in, like, I guess, the preseason or training camp, and they're still technically on the books and still on the hook for them. So you might see them on the roster with like a little red cross symbol next to them because they're injured. And I try to do the injury things to make them reflect the length of injury. There are players like on the Aces, there's a player that's pregnant. They're technically still on the roster, but they're not on the team this season. So I made them a free agent for the year and had like a suspension as the injury thing to make them ineligible for any other team to pick them up. And then I use whatever player that's currently on the Aces roster to hold down that spot. In the case of the New York Liberty, Nigel Hamilton's injury happened during Unrivaled, so she has a suspended contract, but the Liberty are able to replace her spot for this season. So she's also in the free agency pool, ineligible for play this season, and I just used whoever the Liberty had as the replacement on the squad. Next thing you got to think about, the international competition, Eurobasket. I was going to throw in a little insert, but I decided against it. In June, for a couple of weeks, there are going to be some teams missing players. My New York Liberty has 3 players playing for the German national team, and for that period of time, they're not going to be on the Liberty, and they're going to have some fill-in spots. Now, if they get hurt in real life during Eurobasket, I'll see what I can do to, make whatever change I need to make in the game. But hopefully they come back healthy, especially my players. Now, there are players who have like international commitments but are not subjected to the league's prioritization rule, meaning they will be joining their respective team this season. I think there's a center on the Wings squad who I added, Lisa Gisloder, who I think she's going to be joining the team at some point after her international commitments are done. Other players who are subject to the prioritization rule would have had to report to the teams by now, but I think players, there's a specific rule. If you want to look it up, you can look it up. But some players can join their teams during the season, and that's what's going to happen, I think, in the case of the Wing Center. I'm trying to think of what else. I think I covered injuries, I covered the international competition, I covered pretty much everything else. I covered the ratings that I don't have any influence on, or I didn't change. I think that's pretty much it. You can just go ahead and look through the rosters. Oh, remember one more thing. There are players who, since the draft, like Dominique Malanga, kind of had like a little bit of a different hairstyle than we saw when they were playing. Paige Beckers too. I went to go back and edit that and try to make the hairstyles and appearances more reflective of what they look like now during their playing. So this game roster footage was recorded before those changes. So if you see any discrepancy down the line, say that I play against Dallas and the hairstyle is different for Paige, that's the reason why. What else? I'm trying to think of all these things that I changed, or some of the things that relate to the roster, but I can't even remember. Quite a few injured players. Kalia Copper, I think I'm going to add the injury because it's not added here. I think she's going to be out 6 weeks recovering from, I think, a knee surgery for the Mercury. So I'm going to likely go back into the Mercury roster and add that injury. I'm going to go around the league and do like a little once over before I start playing the actual games, which will be episode 2 of this, and just see any major players, see if they're going to be out considerable amounts of time, and try to add those injuries to the game. And that's pretty much it, man. Another question for everybody: who's your favorite WNBA team, and what do you think they're going to finish this season? The Liberty, the Lynx, the Fever, and the Aces are projected to be like the top squads Some people mention the Seattle Storm, some people mention the Mercury. But those teams are expected to be like the real legit contenders for the WNBA championship this season. Of course, I'm hoping that the Liberty run it back, not just in real life, but also here in my virtual season 2 of the New York Liberty franchise mode, defending the torch. Little bonus segment here, the WNBA 2026 draft class file that I'm working on, version 1. I did use some of the player DNAs from the 2025 draft class, the players that did not opt out, the ones that came back to school, and I also traded some players from scratch, the ones that are projected to go highly. It's still very much too early to know who's going to do what, because the fall hasn't gotten here for the actual NCAA college basketball season. But I decided to just put in some work, and I'll try to update this thing if I don't buy NBA 2K26, which I'm probably not going to do unless they really, really improve and make it almost a must-buy. These sports games, year to year, they typically don't do that much to earn your money. So I might go back to my old style of just recycling the game a couple of calendar seasons before moving on. And this will be the draft class that I use if I continue with a season 3 of the New York Liberty Dynasty mode or franchise mode. So we've reached the end of this episode here, the review/preview for the New York Liberty franchise mode that I'm running on NBA 2K25. Episode 2 is going to be out sometime later this week. Just for a little reference, I'm planning on dropping this thing tonight, which is Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. I'm going to start playing some of the games, recording the footage. I'm not sure if I'm going to do voiceovers, but if I don't do voiceovers, I'm going to put them up just with the thumbnail, little description, and you'll see it in the same playlist. But if I do the voiceover, that takes a little more work, so that takes a little more time. So I'm going to kind of play it out, feel it out, see how I want to do it. Half the season, not half the season, but the first few episodes did have the little voiceover. Then I kind of ran into a time crunch and started just putting out the game footage with no intro, no nothing, none of that. So I'll see how I feel as far as this. If I start feeling a time crunch, it's going to be just the raw game footage, and that's it. If I feel like putting the intro, maybe you'll see that. But outside of that, I just want to say it's been real fun learning how to put together these videos, working with all open source software, all free to use stuff, no real background in editing. And now that I'm approaching like maybe 8 or 9 months since starting this channel, I feel like if I look back, I feel like I've grown a little bit, at least as far as the production stuff goes and how things look on the screen and how I can play around with the images. I think I've gotten a little better at that, and I'll pat myself on the back because I never thought I'd be able to kind of finagle these types of programs, if I'm honest. But that said, I want to close out by saying thank you once again. Be on the lookout for episode 2 of the New York Liberty franchise mode series, Defending the Torch. In the meantime, you can check out some of the other things I got going on this channel. I'm working on the new season of the Clay Brown Jr. Road to Glory series. I'm in the process of doing all the voiceover work and editing for that. So that should be out sometime this summer, even though college football 25 might be a thing of the past when July hits. I'm still trying to run that. I'm planning on doing at least another season of Coach Clay Brown Sr., the franchise mode series. That'll be season 5. See how that goes. Again, it's all kind of hinging on whether or not I get the college football 26 video game, which I'm leaning towards not doing right now. Otherwise, you'll see some random videos. I got State of Decay stuff in the stash that I might put out. I got some Mad Max stuff in the stash that I might put out. So I got a little content that I'm trying to work on. Meanwhile, trying to maintain a full-time job and family commitments and things like that. So bear with me as this channel slowly adds more and more content. So I'll close off by saying once again,